Welcome to Ancient Conspiracy Files. I'm your host, Ben Carter, and in today's episode, we turn our focus to one of the most iconic and enigmatic structures on Earth, the Great Pyramid of Giza. For centuries, it's been seen as a tomb, a monument, or perhaps just a wonder of ancient engineering. But what if it was something else entirely? A machine, a power plant, a technology so advanced it defies what we think we know about ancient Egypt. This is the mystery of the Great Pyramid power plant theory. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as a silent sentinel on the Giza Plateau, towering over the desert landscape with a presence that has commanded awe for more than 4,000 years. Constructed during Egypt's 4th dynasty, around 2560 BCE, the pyramid was commissioned by Pharaoh Khufu, also known as Cheops, and remains the largest and most precisely constructed of all the pyramids. It was originally encased in polished white Tura limestone, which reflected sunlight so brilliantly that the structure could be seen from miles away. What remains today is a stripped-down version, weathered and robbed of its outer casing stones, yet it still defies conventional understanding. Archaeologists have long maintained that the Great Pyramid was built as a tomb for Khufu, despite the fact that no body, no funerary inscriptions, and no definitive royal artifacts have ever been discovered inside. Unlike the richly adorned tombs of the Valley of the Kings, the Great Pyramid is stark and utilitarian, containing a series of ascending passageways that lead not to an ornate burial chamber, but to the so-called King's Chamber, a granite-lined room devoid of decoration. The absence of a sarcophagus lid, funerary items, or any conclusive evidence of burial has led many to question whether it ever functioned as a tomb at all. More confounding is the pyramid's construction itself. With over 2.3 million stone blocks, some weighing as much as 80 tons, the logistics of its assembly remain deeply puzzling. Conventional theories propose the use of ramps, levers, and an immense workforce, but these explanations falter under scrutiny. No remnants of the alleged ramps have ever been found, and the level of precision achieved, particularly in the alignment of the pyramid to true north within a fraction of a degree, challenges even modern capabilities. Its base is nearly perfectly level, varying less than an inch over 13 acres, and the sides are oriented almost exactly to the cardinal points. Equally intriguing are the materials used in its construction. The inner chambers, particularly the King's Chamber, are made of granite sourced from Aswan, nearly 500 miles to the south. Granite, rich in quartz crystal, is an excellent conductor of energy. The Grand Gallery, with its corbelled ceiling and sharply rising incline, appears more like an industrial corridor than a ceremonial hallway. Air shafts extend from the King's and Queen's chambers at precise angles, once thought to be symbolic but now considered by some researchers as functional elements, possibly waveguides or pressure vents. Beneath the pyramid lies an enigmatic subterranean chamber, carved directly into the bedrock and left unfinished. Its purpose remains unknown, and its rough, hollowed appearance contrasts sharply with the geometry and polish of the chambers above. Some theorists suggest it served as a foundational element, perhaps the grounding point of an energetic system. The placement and dimensions of the entire structure are so mathematically significant that it seems improbable it was built solely as a royal tomb. Adding to the intrigue is the fact that no hieroglyphs exist within the pyramid's internal chambers. This is unusual for Egyptian monuments, which typically boast extensive inscriptions glorifying the dead and invoking the gods. The silence of the Great Pyramid, its lack of text, narrative, or religious imagery, has raised the possibility that it served a purpose that was either technological in nature or meant to be understood only by a select few. The deeper one looks, the more the conventional narrative begins to fray. While mainstream Egyptology holds tightly to the tomb theory, the anomalous aspects of the pyramid's design, materials, and mathematical precision have fueled speculation for decades. From Nikola Tesla to modern alternative researchers, some have proposed that the Great Pyramid was not a tomb at all, but a machine. Not merely a relic of ancient culture, but a remnant of a forgotten science. These suspicions didn't emerge in a vacuum. They are rooted in the very features of the pyramid itself, in archaeological observations, and in ancient texts that hint at a civilization with knowledge far surpassing what we've been taught. Long before phrases like lost technology entered the public imagination, the idea that Egypt held secrets from a forgotten epoch was already taking root. What those secrets might be remains one of the most enduring puzzles in human history. If the Great Pyramid was more than just a tomb, then we must examine the culture and individuals behind its creation with a more discerning eye. Ancient Egypt was not a primitive society stumbling through monumental architecture. It was a civilization of remarkable stability, longevity, and sophistication, one that, by the time of the pyramid's construction, had already developed an advanced understanding of astronomy, geometry, and engineering. Yet what we know of the Old Kingdom remains filtered through fragments, temples, inscriptions, and burial sites, but perhaps most compelling are the silences in the record, the absences, the anomalies, the unexplained. Pharaoh Khufu, the ruler credited with commissioning the Great Pyramid, remains a mysterious figure. Though his name appears in a quarry inscription and in a small number of other references, there is a noticeable absence of statues, monuments, or detailed records that celebrate his life or his reign. For a king supposedly responsible for the greatest architectural achievement of the ancient world, the historical record is curiously thin. The name Khufu only appears within the Great Pyramid itself in a single cartouche discovered in a small, hard-to-reach space above the king's chamber, a space that was only revealed in modern times. This has led to suspicions that the attribution may have been added much later, or even forged during early exploration. The priesthood of ancient Egypt, keepers of sacred knowledge, also loom large in this narrative. These were not simply religious figures, they were mathematicians, astronomers, engineers, and healers. Within the temple complexes, particularly in Heliopolis and Memphis, the priests maintained oral and written records of celestial events, medicinal practices, and architectural principles. Much of this wisdom, passed down through generations, was never meant for public dissemination. It was sacred, guarded, and possibly encrypted in myth and symbol. Certain architectural features in other ancient sites suggest a broader network of advanced knowledge. The Osirion at Abydos, a subterranean structure composed of massive granite blocks, bears similarities in scale and style to the granite used in the Great Pyramid. Like the pyramid, the Osirion is built with enormous stones and features no inscriptions. Its construction suggests it may be far older than the surrounding temple, which was built by Seti I in the 13th century BCE. Some believe it is a legacy of an even earlier civilization whose understanding of materials and energy was unlike anything known in later Egyptian periods. Heliopolis, one of the oldest cities in ancient Egypt and a major religious center, plays a significant role in the pyramid's potential esoteric connections. It was the city of the sun god Ra and home to the Bennu bird, a mythical creature often associated with cycles of death and rebirth. According to ancient texts, it was here that the Ben stone, a sacred object that descended from the heavens, was housed. Some interpretations suggest this stone was a kind of energy device or power source. If these myths encode lost knowledge, then it's possible the Great Pyramid, aligned with the Heliopolitan tradition, was designed to channel or harness some form of cosmic energy. The builders themselves, those who physically moved the stones and laid the foundations, remain another mystery. Mainstream accounts suggest tens of thousands of laborers worked for decades, yet recent discoveries at the Giza workers' village hint at a more organized and skilled workforce than previously believed. These were not slaves, as once thought, but well-fed artisans and specialists, possibly initiated in knowledge far beyond basic construction techniques. Their precision and coordination suggest an intimate familiarity with sophisticated design principles. Legends passed down through Arab scholars like al-Makrizi and Abu Mashar al-Balkhi describe the pyramids as storehouses of knowledge, built by a pre-cataclysmic civilization to preserve science and sacred texts. These stories, dismissed by many historians, nevertheless point toward a deeper tradition in which the pyramids were not funerary monuments but repositories of power, memory, and lost technology. If true, this changes everything about how we interpret not just the Great Pyramid, but the capabilities and intentions of the people who built it. It opens the possibility that the pyramid was designed not by a single pharaoh for a single purpose, but as part of a much older, perhaps global legacy of monumental knowledge, one whose builders may have known far more about energy, the Earth and the cosmos than modern science is willing to admit. Central to the power plant theory is the assertion that the Great Pyramid was a functional piece of ancient technology, designed not as a tomb but as an energy generator. The idea was popularized in modern times by engineer and author Christopher Dunn, whose 1998 book The Giza Power Plant proposed a radical reinterpretation of the pyramid's architecture. According to Dunn, the internal layout, material composition, and even the geometric precision of the Great Pyramid all point to one purpose: to generate and distribute energy. At the core of this theory is the claim that the Great Pyramid functioned as a harmonic resonance device. Dunn suggested that the structure was designed to vibrate in response to the Earth's natural frequencies, essentially turning it into a giant acoustical chamber. The design of the Grand Gallery, with its sloping walls and corbelled ceiling, may have been intended to amplify sound or vibration. The King's Chamber, made of pink granite rich in quartz, could have served as the central resonating chamber, converting mechanical vibrations into electrical energy through piezoelectric effects. The materials used throughout the pyramid are a cornerstone of this theory. The core structure is made primarily of limestone, an excellent insulator. The inner chambers, including the so-called King's and Queen's chambers, are constructed from granite, which contains high levels of quartz, a mineral known to vibrate when subjected to electrical current or mechanical stress. Meanwhile, the now missing casing stones were made of highly polished white Tura limestone, which some believe could have served as a conductive shell or reflector. One of the most intriguing aspects of Dunn's theory is the role of the Queen's chamber. According to his interpretation, this chamber may have housed a chemical reaction. He postulated that two substances, possibly hydrochloric acid and hydrated zinc, were introduced via the northern and southern shafts of the Queen's chamber, where they combined to produce hydrogen gas. This gas would then rise into the King's chamber, where it was subjected to resonant frequencies generated by the pyramid itself. The resulting resonance, amplified by the Grand Gallery, would cause the hydrogen atoms to align and become ionized, creating a high-energy plasma. This plasma, Dunn theorized, could then emit microwaves or other forms of electromagnetic energy, potentially transmitted through the missing capstone, perhaps composed of a now-lost conductive material. This capstone, or pyramidion, may have functioned as a kind of antenna or energy emitter. Supporters of this theory point to a number of enigmatic architectural details that seem to lack a conventional explanation. For example, the shafts in the King's and Queen's chambers do not serve any known structural purpose, nor are they large enough to be used for ventilation. Yet they are precisely aligned with certain stars, Orion's belt, Sirius, and others, suggesting a connection not just with astronomy but with energy alignment. These shafts could also have served as channels for sound, gas, or energy, depending on one's interpretation. Further supporting the theory are the precision cuts found in the granite blocks of the pyramid's interior. These cuts, particularly in the King's chamber, are so smooth and exact that modern engineers have questioned how they were achieved using the primitive copper tools traditionally ascribed to the builders. Dunn and others argue that such precision implies not only advanced tools, possibly ultrasonic or mechanical in nature, but a working knowledge of engineering far ahead of its time. Then there is the issue of the missing capstone. Today, the Great Pyramid ends in a flat platform. The original capstone has never been found. In ancient texts and local legends, it was said to be made of gold or some mysterious metal that glowed or emitted energy. If it was indeed a functional component of the pyramid's energy system, serving as a conductor, insulator, or transmitter, its absence today would make the device incomplete and dormant. Critics of the power plant theory argue that there is no direct evidence of the chemical reactions proposed or of any ancient system designed to store or distribute electricity. However, the theory remains compelling to those who believe ancient civilizations may have understood forms of energy harnessing that we have either lost or are just beginning to rediscover. The layout, materials, and mathematical precision of the pyramid continue to challenge the assumption that it was simply a tomb. Whether viewed as metaphor or mechanism, the idea that the Great Pyramid once pulsed with energy, resonating with the earth itself, is a vision that redefines ancient Egypt, not as a culture obsessed with death, but as one deeply attuned to power, vibration, and perhaps even the fabric of reality. Among the most cited pieces of support for the Great Pyramid power plant theory are the physical features embedded directly into the structure itself. Subtle, yet significant anomalies that resist easy explanation. These include engineering tolerances far tighter than those achieved in many modern constructions, precise geometrical ratios embedded in the layout, and materials selected with characteristics that seem curiously suited to energy transmission, not spiritual symbolism. Take, for instance, the King's Chamber. This central room is constructed entirely of red granite sourced from Aswan, hundreds of miles to the south. Each block weighs an estimated 50 to 80 tons, and they are fitted with astonishing precision. The chamber itself shows signs of stress fractures, particularly in the ceiling beams, which some researchers argue could be the result of exposure to intense vibrational forces. The granite's high quartz content, known to produce electrical voltage under stress, has led many to suspect this room played a functional role in energy generation. Its dimensions, too, are mathematically significant. The ratio of its height to width is consistent with musical harmonics, and some believe it was tuned to resonate at specific frequencies. The Grand Gallery, the steep passageway leading to the King's Chamber, is also of particular interest. Its corbelled ceiling rises more than 28 feet, and the structure features a series of evenly spaced notches or slots along the walls. Mainstream scholars propose these were used to support scaffolding during construction, but alternative theorists argue that these slots could have housed some kind of mechanical components, perhaps resonators or acoustic amplifiers. The entire gallery acts as a waveguide in Dunn's theory, channeling sound or vibrational energy toward the King's Chamber in a controlled manner. In the Queen's Chamber, researchers have noted that the shafts leading out of the chamber are blocked with stone doors or plugs, some of which contain copper fittings embedded in the surface. These copper elements, found in the so-called Gantenbrink's door, have no clear decorative or structural purpose. Their presence is inexplicable within the conventional framework of tomb construction. But if one entertains the notion of an energy system, perhaps a hydrogen reaction chamber as Dunn posits, then the copper could be interpreted as part of a chemical delivery or pressure regulation mechanism. Another curious detail lies in the use of dolerite, a very hard igneous rock found in abundance near the quarry sites and also used by the builders. Traditional Egyptology claims dolerite was used as pounding stones to shape granite, but their continued presence in and around Giza suggests a more integral role. If advanced tools or technologies were employed, the presence of dolerite may have been more than incidental. It could have been part of a now-lost technique involving sound or vibrational shaping. Mathematics also plays a significant role in the pyramid's mystery. Its base perimeter divided by its height yields a number remarkably close to 2 pi, suggesting the builder's encoded knowledge of the circle's relationship to the square. Furthermore, the pyramid's alignment to true north is so precise, within 3/60ths of a degree, that modern survey equipment would be required to replicate it today. This level of precision suggests intentionality beyond mere aesthetics or royal ambition. Even the site itself, the Giza Plateau, is thought to hold energetic properties. Situated at the geographic centre of Earth's landmass, the location has long been speculated to hold geomagnetic significance. Some theorists argue the pyramid's construction at this precise point was no accident, that it was designed to harness telluric currents, natural electrical currents flowing through the Earth's crust. If true, this would lend additional support to the theory that the Great Pyramid was not just a machine, but one specifically designed to interact with the planet's own energetic systems. No less significant are the interior acoustics. Researchers and tourists alike have reported strange auditory effects inside the chambers. Humming, reverberation, and the amplification of whispers are often noted, particularly in the King's Chamber. Musicians and sound engineers have conducted experiments, striking tones within the chamber and recording sustained harmonics that suggest the space is acoustically tuned. While traditional Egyptology chalks this up to coincidental architecture, proponents of the power plant theory see deliberate design, a structure calibrated to interact with sound and frequency. Though no copper wires, light bulbs, or batteries have been found inside the pyramid, advocates of the theory argue that we are projecting our own technological paradigm onto a civilization that may have used principles we've forgotten or never fully understood. They propose a different kind of energy, not necessarily electricity in the modern sense, but a vibrational, acoustic, or even atmospheric system that we do not yet have the framework to properly interpret. These pieces of the puzzle, quartz-rich granite, precise geometry, unusual acoustic effects, unexplained copper fittings, and stellar alignment, when viewed individually may seem anomalous but not definitive. Yet when taken together, a different picture emerges. One in which the Great Pyramid was not a static monument to death, but a dynamic instrument of energy. Perhaps even a relic from an age when science and spirituality were not at odds, but one and the same. Mainstream archaeology and Egyptology remain steadfast in their interpretation of the Great Pyramid as a royal tomb, constructed with the labour and ingenuity available to 4th Dynasty Egyptians. From this viewpoint, the precision, materials, and scale are all explainable within the cultural and technological context of the time. Experts argue that the allure of more mysterious interpretations arises from modern fascination with lost civilizations and technological anachronisms, rather than from evidence grounded in historical methodology. According to conventional scholarship, the pyramid was built using copper tools, ropes, sledges, and thousands of skilled labourers working in a highly organised system. Evidence supporting this includes remnants of worker villages near the Giza Plateau, graffiti and markings inside certain chambers attributing the construction to crews loyal to Khufu, and copper chisels found at various sites. Critics of the power plant theory point out that while the pyramid's engineering is indeed impressive, attributing it to unknown or lost technology overlooks the ingenuity of ancient cultures and diminishes their accomplishments by imposing modern expectations on ancient designs. From a structural engineering perspective, many of the pyramid's so-called anomalies are addressed through practical explanations. The Grand Gallery's unique shape, for example, is thought to have facilitated the movement of heavy blocks during construction, acting as a kind of ramp or trackway. The corbelled ceiling design, which gives the chamber its steep, stepped profile, is a known technique used to distribute weight and prevent collapse, particularly important when supporting the immense weight of granite blocks above the king's chamber. The alignment to true north is another point of contention. Egyptologists acknowledge the precision, but suggest that ancient astronomers used the stars, particularly the circumpolar constellations, to establish cardinal directions. By tracking the rotation of the night sky over time, early Egyptian surveyors could have achieved astonishing accuracy using rudimentary tools like sighting rods and plumb bobs. The capability to align structures with celestial objects is well documented across ancient civilizations and is not necessarily evidence of unknown science. Regarding the theory of internal hydrogen production, critics emphasize the complete lack of archaeological residue that would indicate chemical reactions. There are no traces of acids, metals, or corrosion products in the Queen's chamber or its shafts. Nor has any ancient Egyptian text or inscription described the use of chemicals for power generation. Egypt's rich written record, including administrative logs, religious texts, and medical manuals, contains detailed knowledge about agriculture, astronomy, and craftsmanship, but nothing remotely close to a technical blueprint for an energy device. The copper fittings discovered in the shafts are also seen differently by mainstream scholars. These could have served a symbolic or functional purpose now obscured by time. The idea that they were part of a mechanical or chemical system is considered speculative at best. The shafts themselves, once thought to be ventilation ducts, are now widely believed to have astronomical or ritual significance, possibly aligned with specific stars to allow the pharaoh's soul to ascend to the heavens. Then there's the missing capstone. While it's true that it has never been recovered, many Egyptologists believe it was likely made of limestone, like the rest of the structure, and simply removed or destroyed over the millennia. Descriptions of glowing or metallic pyramidions are interpreted as later embellishments, possibly influenced by Hellenistic or Islamic mysticism rather than by factual memory. One of the core arguments against the power plant theory is the absence of any ancient power infrastructure. No wires, no energy storage devices, no evidence of large-scale electrical use. If the pyramid was a power plant, where is the distribution system? What did it power? Where are the machines or tools that would have required such energy? These questions are central to the skeptical response. Without supporting artifacts or infrastructure, the theory is seen as speculative and disconnected from the broader archaeological record. Still, many mainstream scholars acknowledge that much about the pyramid remains unexplained. The sheer effort, scale, and enduring mystery of its construction naturally invite alternative interpretations. But within academic circles, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and as of yet, no verifiable proof has emerged to substantiate the theory that the Great Pyramid was anything other than what the ancient Egyptians claimed it to be, a monumental tomb built to honor and immortalize a divine ruler. Even so, the debate continues. For every laser survey confirming ancient accuracy, there are new measurements that reveal greater mysteries. And for every conservative explanation rooted in established fact, there are persistent questions that refuse to be answered by orthodoxy alone. The tension between the conventional and the fringe is not just academic. It speaks to the deeper human desire to understand how such an extraordinary monument came to be. The enduring appeal of the Great Pyramid power plant theory reveals something deeper than a fascination with engineering anomalies or lost technologies. It taps into a collective longing to believe that ancient civilizations knew more than we do, that buried beneath the sands of Egypt is a forgotten legacy, not just of monumental architecture, but of wisdom and purpose that transcends our current understanding. This is more than historical curiosity. It's a cultural undercurrent, driven by a sense that our ancestors may have held keys to the universe that we've somehow misplaced. At the heart of this intrigue lies the notion that the past holds secrets, deliberately kept from the public eye. Believers in the power plant theory often argue that mainstream institutions, museums, universities, and governments have a vested interest in maintaining the official story. The idea is that if humanity once possessed advanced knowledge and lost it, then history as taught in textbooks is fundamentally incomplete. That premise alone challenges the bedrock of modern identity, raising uncomfortable questions about who we are, where we came from, and what we may have forgotten. This existential undertone is one reason why theories like these resonate so widely. They offer an alternative narrative in which humanity is not slowly climbing toward enlightenment, but recovering from a great fall, a decline from a golden age when civilizations were spiritually and scientifically united. In this context, the Great Pyramid becomes not just a structure but a symbol of that lost union, a relic from a time when science was in harmony with the cosmos, and architecture was more than shelter. It was resonance, frequency, energy. Psychologically, the appeal also lies in the inversion of the typical historical hierarchy. Rather than viewing ourselves as the most advanced generation, we become the inheritors of a broken lineage. This reversal offers both humility and hope. Humility in recognizing that we may not be the peak of human achievement, and hope that perhaps we can rediscover what was lost. The pyramid, in this light, becomes a message in stone, an encrypted blueprint waiting to be decoded. Belief in the power plant theory also reflects a modern yearning for clean, limitless energy. In a world plagued by environmental degradation and political manipulation of resources, the idea that ancient people mastered an energy source that was both natural and non-polluting is deeply seductive. It suggests that there was a path not taken, one where civilization thrived in harmony with nature rather than in conflict with it. The pyramid is cast not just as a machine, but as a potential model for sustainable energy, an ancient Tesla coil cloaked in mystery. There's also a spiritual dimension. Many proponents of the theory blend science with mysticism, viewing the pyramid not just as a physical generator, but as a spiritual one. They speak of vibrational medicine, consciousness fields, and sacred geometry, proposing that the structure's proportions are tuned to the very fabric of reality. To them, the pyramid is a place where the veil between the physical and the metaphysical is thinner, a place where energy, matter, and spirit converge. This synthesis of ancient science and spiritual purpose resonates in a culture increasingly disillusioned with mechanistic explanations of existence. Moreover, the theory offers agency. It tells listeners and readers that they too can uncover truth, that hidden knowledge is accessible, if one only looks hard enough or thinks differently. It's a narrative of empowerment, appealing to those who feel marginalized by elite gatekeepers of information. In this sense, belief in ancient energy systems or lost technologies becomes a form of rebellion, against conformity, against intellectual orthodoxy, and against the idea that history is settled. Even the sheer mystery of the pyramid's construction invites this kind of belief. The gaps in evidence, the unanswered questions, and the architectural marvels themselves seem to whisper that there's more than meets the eye. When explanations feel insufficient or dismissive, people fill the gaps with meaning, sometimes spiritual, sometimes conspiratorial, but always revealing. And in a world where meaning feels increasingly fragmented, theories like the power plant model offer a cohesive, if speculative, vision of the past that unites physics, philosophy, and purpose. It's not just about what the Great Pyramid was, it's about what it represents, a lost age, a hidden truth, a symbol of potential. Whether or not it once hummed with power, the idea that it might have changes the way people look at history, not as a straight line but as a spiral, ever circling back to truths obscured, waiting once again to be revealed. The power plant theory has not only persisted in alternative circles, it has flourished, evolving into a cultural phenomenon fed by documentaries, internet forums, and speculative literature. Popular media has played a critical role in amplifying the idea, blending ancient architecture with futuristic imagery to create a compelling narrative of lost science and forgotten truths. In doing so, the theory has reached far beyond the realm of archaeology, embedding itself in the collective imagination as a mystery too powerful to ignore. Television shows like Ancient Aliens, produced by the History Channel, have brought the theory to global audiences. Often featuring voices like Giorgio Tsoukalos and David Childress, these programs offer a platform where fringe theories are not only presented but dramatized, set against ominous soundtracks, CGI reconstructions, and breathless commentary. While critics often accuse such shows of prioritizing spectacle over scholarship, they have undeniably shaped public perception. The visual format gives life to the theory, turning the sterile stones of Giza into the components of a dormant energy machine awaiting rediscovery. YouTube, with its decentralized and unregulated nature, has become a breeding ground for new interpretations. Channels like Bright Insight, Uncharted X, and Praveen Mohan attract millions of views by challenging mainstream archaeology with slickly produced videos that combine satellite imagery, personal investigations, and reinterpreted data. These creators often walk the line between investigation and entertainment, presenting theories like the power plant model not as settled conclusions, but as provocative possibilities that invite the viewer to question everything. Social media has also played a transformative role. On TikTok and Instagram, short-form videos break down complex theories into digestible visual snippets. Hashtags like pyramid power, lost technology, and ancient knowledge trend regularly, creating viral loops of engagement that further entrench the theory in public discourse. These platforms encourage speculative thinking, turning every user into a potential theorist. Comments flood in not with skepticism but with shared enthusiasm, reinforcing the idea that the official story must be incomplete. Books continue to provide the theoretical backbone. Aside from Christopher Dunn's The Giza Power Plant, works by authors like Graham Hancock and Robert Barval have kept the conversation alive, even if they approach the subject from different angles. Hancock's hypothesis of a forgotten advanced civilization, possibly wiped out by a cataclysm, dovetails with the power plant theory's core message. that the pyramid is not an isolated anomaly, but a remnant of a broader lost knowledge system. Baalwal's Orion correlation theory, which links the pyramid layout to the constellation Orion's belt, adds astronomical weight to the idea that Giza was far more than a royal necropolis. Fiction has further blurred the line between speculation and storytelling. Novels and films often use the pyramid as a backdrop for narratives involving secret knowledge, ancient energy, or extraterrestrial intervention. The Stargate franchise famously reimagined Egyptian gods as alien beings who left behind powerful technologies, an idea that, while fictional, echoes many of the themes found in the power plant theory. Such portrayals reinforce the mystique, especially for younger generations who encounter the theory first as entertainment, only later discovering its more serious proponents. What makes the theory so compelling in these mediums is its adaptability. It can be framed as science fiction, spiritual awakening, suppressed history, or technological mystery, depending on the audience. It provides a canvas onto which people can project their hopes, fears, and fascinations. And in a world increasingly skeptical of authority, where traditional narratives are questioned and sometimes distrusted, the idea of hidden truths buried beneath stone and sand becomes not just plausible, but irresistible. Even skeptics acknowledge that the theory serves as a gateway. For many, it's the entry point into deeper explorations of ancient history, comparative mythology, and esoteric knowledge. Though not all who encounter the theory remain convinced, they are often left with a lasting impression that history is not as simple as it seems, and that the past may still hold secrets not yet revealed. In that sense, the Great Pyramid power plant theory has transcended its origins. It is no longer just a hypothesis proposed by a single engineer. It has become a modern myth, a story repeated and reshaped by countless voices across every corner of the digital and cultural landscape. Whether believed as literal truth or seen as symbolic metaphor, it persists because it speaks to something primal. The suspicion that we are the inheritors of a past far more extraordinary than we've been taught to believe. At the farthest reaches of the Great Pyramid power plant theory lie ideas that move beyond alternative archaeology and into the realm of the esoteric and metaphysical. These are the interpretations that reject not just mainstream history, but the boundaries of material science itself. Here, the pyramid is no longer merely a generator or an energy device. It becomes a key to understanding the deeper structure of the universe. Fringe theorists, mystics, and occult scholars have expanded on the basic premise to include ideas of interdimensional technology, extraterrestrial architecture, and vibrational consciousness. These interpretations often appear fantastical, but they remain deeply rooted in recurring symbols, ancient myths, and patterns found across global traditions. One such fringe claim is that the Great Pyramid is not just aligned to the cardinal directions, but that it was built as a dimensional anchor point, a node in a planetary energy grid sometimes referred to as the Earth's ley lines. This network, according to proponents, connects sacred sites around the globe: Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, Teotihuacan, Angkor Wat. The argument is that ancient civilizations, possibly connected by a now-lost global culture or non-human intelligence, positioned these monuments with mathematical precision to channel and balance the Earth's energetic currents. Within this framework, the pyramid was both transmitter and receiver, an instrument harmonizing the planet's frequency to promote stability, health, and consciousness on a planetary scale. More radical still is the assertion that the pyramid was a consciousness amplifier. In this view, the structure's angles, proportions, and materials were not accidental, but designed to affect the human mind. Proponents cite experiments, some formal, others anecdotal, in which time distortion, heightened awareness, or healing phenomena are reported inside pyramid-shaped chambers. The original structure, with its immense mass and energetic geometry, is thought to have enhanced states of awareness, allowing initiates or priests to access altered states of consciousness, communicate with divine intelligences, or peer into other dimensions. The king's chamber becomes, in this telling, not a generator of physical power, but a gateway to spiritual transformation. These ideas are often tied to the Hermetic tradition, which emerged in Hellenistic Egypt and blended Greek philosophy with Egyptian mysticism. The central principle of hermeticism, as above, so below, echoes the belief that the pyramid is a mirror of the cosmos, both physically in its alignment to stars and symbolically in its function as a temple of initiation. To adherents of this lineage, the pyramid encodes sacred geometry, representing a path of spiritual ascent from the material to the divine. Each chamber, each passage, is a stage in the soul's journey toward enlightenment. Some researchers go further still, proposing that the Great Pyramid was built not by humans at all, but by non-terrestrial beings. Ancient astronaut theorists argue that the level of sophistication, especially the precision cutting of granite and global knowledge of astronomy, could not have been achieved without the intervention of an advanced, possibly extraterrestrial intelligence. These beings, they claim, may have seeded civilization or guided early humans through cataclysmic periods. The pyramid, then, is not just a power plant or a tomb. It's a beacon, a repository, or even a machine left behind by these entities as part of a forgotten covenant or interstellar experiment. Still others view the pyramid as a time capsule, encoding lost technologies in the form of geometry, proportions, and resonance. In this vision, the structure was never meant to generate power in the conventional sense, but to preserve knowledge across cycles of destruction and renewal. Echoing stories of Atlantis and the Great Flood, this interpretation sees the pyramid as a fail-safe, an indestructible monument designed to survive global cataclysm and preserve the seed of civilization for future rebirth. Its power is not electrical, but symbolic, a cipher waiting to be reawakened when humanity is ready. Across all these fringe perspectives, one theme is constant: the belief that the Great Pyramid holds a purpose far greater than the one assigned by history books. Whether as a machine, a temple, a transmitter, or a portal, it represents a kind of forgotten mastery, not just over stone or mathematics, but over energy, spirit, and the hidden laws of the cosmos. In the eyes of these believers, the Great Pyramid is not just ancient, it is eternal, a monument not to death, but to power in its purest, most mysterious form. What emerges from the countless theories, speculations, and contradictions surrounding the Great Pyramid power plant hypothesis is not a single definitive answer, but a prism through which we view the mystery of the past. The Great Pyramid itself remains unchanged, its stones unmoved by the thousands of years and countless ideas projected upon them. Yet the interpretations continue to evolve, each generation layering new meaning over old granite, driven by the same timeless impulse to understand. At its core, the theory asks a question more profound than whether the pyramid produced energy. It challenges the very story we tell ourselves about human history. Were our ancestors struggling toward complexity or recovering from a lost age of knowledge? Did they build great monuments through brute labor alone, or through a science we no longer understand? These questions do not yield easy answers, and perhaps they never will. But their persistence reveals a deeper truth, that mystery itself is a kind of power. The power plant theory, though dismissed by most scholars, continues to hold influence because it speaks to gaps in the conventional narrative. There are still no blueprints, no conclusive proof of tomb functions within the pyramid, no inscriptions identifying it unambiguously as Khufu's eternal resting place. There is no clear explanation for the use of granite in resonant configurations, or for the inclusion of non-functional shafts that align to celestial bodies. These facts, though not proof of an energy device, resist full explanation. They linger in the shadows of certainty. At the same time, the scientific community urges caution. The danger of romanticizing the past is that it can lead us away from the truth, replacing evidence with desire. The absence of proof is not proof of a cover-up. And while imagination is vital, it must be tempered by discipline if we are to truly learn from history. The Great Pyramid, in all its majesty, remains an extraordinary achievement of human ambition and skill. Whether or not it once hummed with unseen energies, it still commands respect as a marvel of ancient engineering. Yet it's impossible to ignore the sense of intentionality woven into every stone. The mathematical harmonics, the astronomical alignments, the materials selected not only for strength but for energetic potential, these are not easily dismissed as coincidence. Even without accepting the power plant theory as fact, one can acknowledge that the Great Pyramid was built with an awareness of forces beyond the physical. Whether those forces were symbolic, spiritual, or energetic remains open to interpretation. In the end, perhaps the most important revelation is not about what the pyramid was, but what it does to us. It stirs the imagination, it provokes inquiry, it forces us to question. And that may be its greatest power, the ability to awaken a sense of awe, to challenge the boundaries of what we accept as truth, and to inspire new generations to look deeper, ask harder questions, and imagine greater possibilities. So we return to the silent monument on the Giza Plateau. It has no voice, no inscriptions, no definitive answers, but it also has no equal. Whether viewed as a tomb, a temple, a machine, or a message, the Great Pyramid remains the ultimate enigma, one that may forever resist full understanding. Yet in that resistance, it continues to exert its influence, drawing us ever closer to a truth that may not be found in stone or science, but in the questions we dare to ask. Thanks for listening. This has been Ancient Conspiracy Files. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you'd like to support the show, subscribe to the Forbidden Knowledge Network on Patreon. Subscribe now.